Hey,
Hey Timo, how you doing?
quite fine. I'm a bit busy at the moment, but otherwise I'm fine.
Excellent. Glad to hear you're doing all right despite the busyness. Everyone's
Yeah, of
super
course.
rammed at the moment. I'm glad that at least some people are going to be sort of rolling in as time goes on. Um, I wonder if you want to talk about your process as a captain, sort of coming into this round one without giving anything away. I will say that to everybody who's sort of coming through today, I'm going to be saying to them, be very careful about what you say. Make sure it's only stuff that is like pertaining to your park and whatnot, because the last thing that we need is any perceived sort of um, infractions on rules. That doesn't make for like a good competition, I don't think. So it's just a small league, yes, Mr. Brightside. Um, so Timo, what was the process for round one? Speaking from a captain point of view.
Um, it was quite I mean the deadline was very tight, so we
Oh, so
needed
tight.
to find a concept really fast.
Yeah,
And the concept we did, like the medieval action park
popping it
concept
open.
kind of idea. Yeah.
We're jumping in.
Baba came up with it pretty early and really wanted to do it. So yeah, I thought it would be a nice concept for round one because it's so easy to understand and people could follow along. And I also
Yeah.
saw that MK would be a great supportive builder for it because he's good at this whimsical stuff, these fantastic little things. Great builder for that. Um, so yeah, that was why I chose these two to build on the park, and they basically started it. And later we thought that it needed a good coaster, so we put Lewis on it to build the RMC with the ballista hack. And actually somehow also Lurker got on it, and I'm quite surprised actually because Lurker did what Lurker did on the park actually was like a lot of the architecture was done by Lurker. Like
Wow.
that little building left to the coaster station. I think that was Lurker's. The brewery, for
This
example.
one.
No, the other one, like left, not on the right side. Yeah,
Oh,
this,
sorry.
for example, was Lurker, and the one behind the church was Lurker. So I think his custom scenery skills are better than some might think. Uh,
Hey, I'm a number
that's really
one
what I
Lurker
wanted to say
stan.
about the part.
I'm Lurker's biggest fan, mate.
Yeah. I mean, the original idea for this park was it to be a little bit more fantastical. So lean more into that barbar weirdness we all love so much. But yeah, but the team agreed for it to be a little more realistic, getting inspiration from Manor Lords, fantastic game that just came up, and
Oh,
many
fair
people are
enough.
playing at the moment.
Yeah, I've not
Um,
really looked into it, but it's something that's come up on, when you're just browsing Reddit and then all these strange subreddits start cropping up. Um, so I've
yeah,
seen that a lot of people like that because they're sort of being suggested to me. Um,
yeah,
that's
and
really
and
good that you have
Fish
that
has
like
been playing
touch
it like
point
crazy.
of inspiration that you can draw from, isn't it? That can really make or break whether you can conceptualize all the things.
Yeah, I agree. The thing was, Fish was playing it like crazy on the team. He even streamed a bit of it, so we got a bit of inspiration from that too.
The inspiration
It
stream.
was, yeah. So, as said, Lurker did some of the buildings and some little stuff. MK mostly did like the arena and the surroundings, and
Yeah.
yeah, Lou did the coasters obviously, and like all the rest is Barber. And I mean, building around one park like that is exactly why I drafted him.
And it seems
Such a
sincerely
fast,
like he delivered, yeah.
yeah, he's just such a fast, idea-heavy builder. Pretty cool to have him on the team. But yeah, unfortunately we lost. looking at the round 1 wrap up, we might would have been better in another matchup probably. Got a bit unlucky in my opinion, but yeah, it's a fantastic park, I think.
Hey,
and,
here's the thing.
we
Here's the
should be proud of
heartbreaking
it.
thing. Someone's got to lose. And with 6
Yeah.
parks of the quality that we had this round, I'm like offended that some have to walk away without a win. Because basically all of them, I bet that everybody was coming out of their team servers being like, we've got this. And in a way, everybody was correct in that assumption, because who could have known that everybody was making kind of some of the best parks that have ever been put in head-to-head. Especially in round 1. I'm going to keep emphasizing this because 4 weeks, 28 days, guys. That's insane. And for people who don't build on round 1, it might be difficult to comprehend just how little time that is. That you've got to ideate, you've got to make your mistakes, you've got to start getting stuff down, you've got to change your ideas if they're not working. It's such a short amount of time.
Oh yeah, true. But this time, really, all of the teams pretty much did such a good job on these round 1 parks. It's crazy. I mean, I had some talks with the other captains too, and most were saying that they've never seen such completed parks in round 1. Like when we were building this, we even had like a few days of polishing where the map was basically done, and we could just add little things here and there. And I've never seen such things on a round 1 park on all the teams I've been yet.
As a captain,
I don't know if it's
As a captain, why do you think that is? Do you have any is it like a technological thing? Is it like a maturity of the community? What do you think has contributed to that?
I think scenery manager is a huge point that's contributing to it. Because Baba was basically like building a lot of stuff, especially those little things like off map, and then we just copied them in and see where which thing fit best. And I also feel like Discord and all the things surrounding it really made communications much better than in past head-to-heads.
I see that we have a lurker
like...
in the text chat, wondering whether we're discussing the current park. But I don't know whether he's going to hop in. I'd love him to, though, to hear from, because Lurker built on this, so I'm excited to hear from him. But like I say, it's a big like technology side thing, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think so too. And but basically, I mean, we're gonna see if all the parks are going to have like this level, or if the parks of the upcoming rounds are even better than that. Because all these parks are already scaring me quite much.
Yeah, I did feel a definite sense of fear when I was seeing other people's parks, because when you have like a personal insight into how your parks were made and stuff, but then you see other people's, it's kind of like that like comparison is the thief of joy thing, where you suddenly forget how good your thing is compared to other people's. So opening this park up, I was like, oh goodness, it's quite similar to our park, because it's got that like cross-hatched like stuff, that like medieval vibe, and I'm like looking through it like, wow, they've gone like a different route to what we did, and got an extremely different result from it, and it was really interesting to see the different conclusion got from that. Hey Lurker, how you doing?
Oh no, it's the Lurker internet again.
Ooh, Joshy might be coming soon. Oh, Lurker's typing. The pathing on the park was a nightmare. Speak on that, Lurker. Let's hear your insight. You know what? I should get my phone up and be on the text chat in my phone, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention when I was when I was praising Lurker earlier that he also did like a lot of the pathing work and making everything peepable and stuff like that.
Oh man, that's kind
Also
of
something he
that's
did.
that's such a huge thing as well. It's very just like it's not necessarily the most like difficult thing in the world, but it's so time consuming.
Yeah, and it's very important if you have like these aesthetics focused builders like Barber on a park who are not really caring about these things when building, then you really need people like Lurker who can figure those things out.
Yeah, delegation's really important in that regard. You've got to have not just like a captain of like a team, you've got to have like a kind of like project leader for like each project who's going to be able to delegate and make sure the team like comes together and whatnot.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I don't know what else to say about this park. Obviously there are some cool little things in here. I really love the ballista hack we did.
Yeah, I
Actually,
because I do this a lot. Like when I'm looking through things, I have like little keybinds. Obviously, everyone has keybinds, but I have like H is like get rid of literally every land surface. So I kind of do that to like look at what shoestringing and stuff's gone on. And I actually didn't spot the ballista until I sort of did that and saw it like flying around like underground and stuff. And I was like, oh, what's that? And then I was like, whoa, that's such a cool just idea.
yeah,
Do you know
was
who
really
came up with
great
that?
in the team. I think it was Fish, if I remember correctly. Fish, Fish was very useful on this park. He hasn't built on it, but he has provided so many ideas and little things. He was just making a list of a bunch of things, and the boys were just yeah, looking at Fish list and recreating all the stuff he proposed. And I think he also came up with the ballista hack. But I did the hack actually. So yeah.
Gotta get your roses. Timo, hacker extraordinaire.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to at least do one small hack at this park. If I'm not building Route 1, like everyone predicted, I would be on Round 1, but I actually wasn't. So
I was shocked to see that. I think, unless I'm very much mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that the Lonely Hearts Club was the only team to have captain build on round one.
oh yeah, that's true. I was very shocked about that too. I at least expected some Liam or something like that.
For sure, I had him on the like the guessing thing. I was like, oh, Liam for sure built on this. There's like flavors of Liam in there, but that just must have been his captaincy sneaking in.
Yeah, I feel like as a captain, you always have a bit of influence on all the parks that are being built on the team.
Oh, that's it. Just looking at the chat. Lurker's saying, you know, watching Marcel Voss videos and stuff, learning how guest pathing works. And Lurker, please do let us know about which builders you built on. I will dictate it for the class if you type it out for me. Yeah, using all of those, because the quality of stuff's becoming so high, you've kind of got to become not an expert in everything, but you've got to use all the resources that you can. So all these people who are not necessarily new elements level of, not like level, but new element influenced builders like Marcel Vosses of the world, who are more like technical gameplay sort of type creators. Their stuff's really interesting because they get into the nuts and bolts of how the actual systems of the game influence what we do. So if we want to have such a lively and like bustling park, we need to manipulate as much as we can, the same way that we do with rides, same way that we do with scenery. We've got to be manipulating the peeps as well. And looking at this park, it's like popping off everywhere. So great job, Lurker. I also want to give a shout out for like the sound that you guys did. I was mentioning earlier that I feel like every park had like a mind to, especially the new save format, you can just include audio with the park now, which is something that we've not really had access to. And I feel like everybody's noticed how influential that can be. So I'm really glad about that.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering if you're going to see people do more with it in the later rounds.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder like what sort of potential it has.
Yeah, agreed. But it was fun. I helped a bit with it too. Like looking for these ambient sounds that are very subtle, but working really great here, I think.
I think so too. I've not got sound on whilst we're streaming because it would be very distracting, but I know that everyone's opened up the parks and they will know exactly what you're talking about. And if you haven't, if you open up all these parks on mute, first of all, I will come to your house and slap you because people have put effort into like literally every part of these parks, and you're not getting the most out of it if you're playing on mute and whatnot. Oh, Lurker, you added the water sounds because one of the things I was doing whilst I was preparing is I was looking at ride list and like seeing what do we have here at the bottom, and I saw waterfall sounds, and I also noticed that these ones were closed, and I was wondering why they were closed. So if you've got a little bit of insight on that, was that just a little oversight bound to happen on such a far-reaching park as this? I think personally my favorite part of this park is this bridge here. I also love these guys. Whoa.
Yeah, I was really pushing the team to make that middle part with the bridge and the middle at the bottom, make that the money shot of the park. Because I think every good head-to-head park needs a view like that. I think they really did a great job with it. It's also like the part of the park that got reworked the most, I think. With a lot of different versions, especially for that bridge, until it was right.
Gotta be done sometimes. Gotta be done.
Yeah.
Where's the outtakes? Otter says. So Lurker says they did the tannery. I believe we've spoken about these ones with Timo. The brewery, slightly modified as well. General store, but it's modified a bit. Shore store and a small house next to it. So you did quite a bit, Lurker, it sounds like. Feels like Lurker was kind of instrumental to getting this across the line.
Yeah, definitely. He really outdid himself on those buildings. They are all really great. I especially think, I don't know if people have noticed, but every single building in this park has a purpose. So every building is themed after a certain profession or something. they really try hard at a lot on these little details here.
I think it really pays off. It's got such a it's like a trite theme, isn't it? It's like it's been done a million times, but this it's never been done like this. You know, it's got such an identity that I personally really appreciate. And I also love all of these medieval themed like contemporaneous rides. Like, of course they didn't have Ferris wheels back in the day, but you've justified it. And this spinning thing, justified. This windmill spinny guy, justified. This crazy mine ride, which I think is my favorite ride in the park. I don't know what about this like really appeals to me, but I love stuff like this. I also love on, you know, like KT's Dreamland in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1. I love the Batflyer ride. I don't know why. It's just really, maybe it's nostalgia, but like this has like vibes of like Batflyer to me, in my opinion. Which might sound like a diss, but to me, it's just not. It's a big compliment.
Yeah, I think the Mine Train one is my favorite too. And I must add, like a bit of insight that one actually was kind of an afterthought. Which really shows like how good of a coaster builder Lewis is. Because he put that right in like after all the stuff surrounding it was already built.
Oh, so that was like a call made, like, oh, this needs a little something something.
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating, because you would never have guessed.
Yeah, like the whole mountains are really feeling like they were built after the coaster, and but it actually was the other way around. I think it's a bit sad that the coaster a little bit distracts the view of that little bee hut on the left, because I think that might be my favorite little detail on the park.
Yeah, not the bees. Love stuff like that. And this park, by the way, guys, it's worth second look, it's worth third look, it's worth, you know, as many looks as it takes to find all of the little, like, details that you find everywhere. You know, there's like a bard here playing in the, like, the ruins of a burning building. Like, what on earth is that? Can
I say something about the ruined building?
Yeah.
Because actually, if you look very closely, you can see why the building has burned down. Because I think there is some dragon poo somewhere, like the brown stuff in the middle. That's supposed to be dragon poo.
Oh, here.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be dragon shit.
Yeah, I don't know what Baba was thinking when he built it, but that was the explanation we got.
Well, that's a little bit of a look inside the mind of a genius. Sometimes geniuses are kind of crazy.
Yeah, definitely the case with him. I really loved what he did with this park. Really loved what all the 4 builders did with this.
Amazing. Timo, thank you so much for chatting with me. I'd certainly not kick you off now because I appreciate your company at all times. But I'm going to open it up to everybody. Who do we have here who can speak on the parks that they've made? I'm seeing a Monsterbux. I'm seeing an Otter. I'm seeing a JK. I'm seeing a Dino who can't talk. So get your bids in now.
Yeah.
I'm going to summon JK.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, absolute pleasure.
Busy, as I said. Yeah.
Very glad to have had you. I want to see some heart emojis in the chat for RWE for being so open-handed and talking us through this park. And big thank you to Lurker for giving their insight onto what's gone on. Love you, Lurker. Hope people start putting even more respect on your name after contributing to such an amazing park. I'm just gonna jump over to like a random other one. Let's just open this one. Just to get a bit of change of scenery whilst I go on my phone and start harassing people and personal messages.
It's me.
Hey, dude.
Good choice. I can probably talk about this if you want. Otter's in, but I don't know if he's able to talk. But
no, of course.
Yeah, I'm here.
We can go through this.
Hey, we got Otters! Whoa!
No Levis, sadly.
Hey, we don't like Levis around these parts, so
Rude.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sad that we didn't get Levis in. I'm very interested to see the kind of things that Levis contributed on, because I know that Levis to be a bit of a genius. Very much in when I was like joining the community, he was the guy. He was the hacks guy. He was like the win hack guy. So I wonder what in this, like we've got all new like APIs and stuff like available to like developers and whatnot. I'm fascinated to hear what someone of his level of like insight and creativity is doing, and I wonder whether he brought any of that to this park. But like I say, I mentioned it earlier, guys, whilst we're in this chat, let's not be like accidentally saying stuff that we shouldn't be saying. I know it's a bit of a challenge, but let's keep it relevant to like the park and relevant to like stuff that's publicly available now. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir on this to you guys because you're obviously like super smart, but like just for everybody's benefit, I'd hate for someone to say something that they can't take back in the, you know, in complete innocence, you know what I mean? So yeah, please talk me through the story of this park.
As in the backstory, or just how we started it?
Hey,
I mean,
open to interpretation, my friend.
I don't know. I don't know. I've wanted to do like a Star Wars land sort of a sister park to like Galaxy's Edge for a while, and more so after seeing Otter's Spotlight, which had a Star Wars area. So when I originally pitched it, I was like, oh, am I going to be like stepping on Otter's toes a bit? Because I don't want to be like, oh, Otter, here's a Star Wars park. We're just going to, you know, once you've just done one. So yeah, it was, I guess originally I wanted to try and do something a bit more like realistic theme park. So like an actual sister park to Galaxy's Edge. But I think as the idea fleshed out, it was more, let's just go full kind of environmental sort of fantasy kind of, and just go full tilt with it. So that's how we sort of got around to the theme. In terms of the actual theme, I've been playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order a bit, so that kind of inspired me with regards to the sort of location, being inspired by, there's a planet called Zepho in that game. Lots of sort of grey rocks and cliffs and greenery and stuff, and sort of really old ancient structures and stuff that seemed like it would be suitable and work well for RCT. I mean, in universe, it was a bit of a sort of mix, I think. In the end, we sort of settled on it being sort of post or after, like, the Empire, sort of to give credence to the existence of, like, X-Wings and TIE fighters and stuff. But it's more sort of to be a new area, a new world, sort of, in the Star Wars universe. So similar to how Galaxy's Edge is sort of envisioned as, like, this completely new sort of place within the same theme. And I thought that sort of lent it to, I don't know, being quite easy to sort of build and try and think about, you know, ways you can sort of incorporate different sort of ideas and architecture whilst still keeping it very Star Wars and very drawing on existing sort of IP.
Yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? Like you obviously want to bring like a unique spin to the theme, whilst making sure you're touching on those things that make something Star Wars. And it isn't it isn't. You can't just put an X-wing in somewhere and be like, it's Star Wars. That's just not how it works. So what as part of that process were you just looking at Galaxy's Edge, or were you opening up the films and saying what are the consistent things which make Star Wars look the way it does?
It was partly sort of Galaxy's Edge, like the Galaxy's Edge sort of art book and the philosophy behind how they made that sort of theme park area. It was also just looking at a lot of different inspiration from Star Wars. Yeah, because and it was sort of a risk, I guess, going with an IP based thing, but then also trying to make it original within that IP. Yeah.
I think it was hugely successful. Like I didn't question it for a moment, as being like, I don't know how to put it. It just immediately sold me on like, oh, this is plainly Star Wars, and I wondered whether it was like directly from a game or something. Just because it was so like fleshed out that I was like, oh, they drew directly from like a 3D environment they could walk around, like potentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a few places here that are like sort of very inspired by certain areas of the game. But then there's also a lot of just original stuff that's building on that, and like sort of the building shapes with the sort of teal roof is like that kind of motif shows up in the game, but we sort of made original sort of structures out of it.
Yeah. Are there any sort of like secrets in this park which you feel may have been overlooked? Is there anything you want to draw our attention to?
I'm not sure. I guess there's just a lot of stuff in those last few days that we're just sort of trying to cram as much sort of things in.
That's how it goes.
I think
Yeah.
one thing that a lot of people I don't think pointed out or have commented on, a lot of the peep scenes, you can like if you hover the cursor over it, there is like a description of what's happening.
It's like this guy in here. What you looking at?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's other stuff where we've really sort of used the invisible track to try and make it so it's a whole like hoverable thing. So if you go down, I think the Sith area or something, there's in the basement of the library. There's like if you hover, like I guess for some of the peep scenes, because the scenery itself is peeps.
Yeah.
It's not like the peep itself isn't clickable, but we've just added a piece of track over it so that it becomes clickable.
See, that's a level of I hadn't considered that, you know, guys. So that's something that we're all going to have to
be making like or like trying to make, I don't know, staff into looking like Sith Lords or Jedi or whatever. If we have these cute little peep objects that I've made with the lightsabers.
They're all really cool.
And if you hover over the nice statue there, you'll see the full. There we are.
Butt fix.
That's the best
Amazing.
one to highlight for sure.
This is straight from like episode 2, isn't it? Like, if it's not in the archives, then I'm afraid it doesn't exist.
Yeah, Otter worked on, pretty much did all of this library.
Yeah.
Really like pulled it out in the end of sort of the last few days, just filling in everything, and it came out really looking really nice.
What is your favorite? I know that like when you like give the park over for submission, you have to include your screenshot. So that's pretty much an indication of the answer to this question. But what area of this park do you find yourself like coming back to and really appreciating?
Yeah, for me, it's either that first scene that is the screenshot, or it's like the one rotation where you see the. So if you rotate once there and then you go up to the hill, that's that scene I really like.
Yeah, same. Just how everything's so built up and it looks so natural.
Yeah, I tried to sort of go with like sort of layers and steps and stuff, and
there's been a revolution when it comes to like the fish rocks and whatnot. I've noticed everyone's gone like, okay, we can do this on like an insane level now. And everyone's really committed hard to that, and that's kind of scary, to be honest.
Yeah, it takes a lot of patience.
It does, yeah. So I think hopefully people don't feel like they have to use fish rocks, but it does really help with creating shapes and stuff that you wouldn't have thought of or tried to do before.
Yeah, I mean this scene wouldn't have been possible before. On no level. So thank you, Fish, for your rocks. Otter, having just, made a fantastic spotlight that was Star Wars themed, was there any sort of like trepidation on your part? Were you like resistant to doing it, or was it like were you just sold on the idea that were you saying, Extreme, that this was your idea that you brought forward?
Yeah. So it was initially like my pitch. I think Otter was like, I'm down to do more Star Wars, which relieved me a bit.
Yeah, it was pretty immediate where I'm like, yeah, sign me up.
This is my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, if like the goal is to get a park out in 4 weeks, if it's a style that I'm like most recently accustomed to, it just in terms of productivity made a lot of sense. But also, I just want to work with Extreme on the park, so I'm like, I jumped on it. I'm like, yep, I'll do it.
Yeah,
might as well. I think it was just easy to settle into the world building because I had just done it. Obviously, to a different environment, but
yeah, it's not Galaxy's Edge 2 by any stretch as well. So I bet it was quite a fun thing to take what you'd done previously and then do something completely different with it.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about, I guess, IPs or stuff like that, is that you can use so much, or I guess, different things to pull from: time periods, games, movies, planets. There's a lot of creativity you can exercise.
Yeah, I think Star Wars it can very much be like a blank canvas for us throwing sort of like sci-fi used future kind of ideas in, which is what I really like about it. Really, is it's not just like some sleek modern futuristic thing. It's very sort of crunchy and very worn down, but it's still sort of very futuristic, and just sort of different and alien.
One thing that I think I maybe struggled with was the coaster supports. I didn't do that much of it, but holy crap. Trying to throw supports down on top of fish rocks is complicated.
Yeah, they can be a bit funny from particular angles, can't they?
Yeah. It can be difficult. I was determined not to get it in the middle of like sort of where the two sort of cliffs get carved out by the rocks, and just have it. So like the lift supports, I'm happy with, because it wasn't just like standard going straight down. It was sort of like big into the rocks.
Yeah, it's a cool structure.
I know it's already been mentioned on the stream before, but like it just looks so finished, and it was made in 4 weeks. Was it like super stressful? Did it go quite easily for you guys? What was the process of making such a remarkable thing in such a small amount of time?
It was a bit slow going at the start, but I think once we got in the main coaster and sort of the macro of the library, for me in my head, it sort of started coming together, and I could envision, okay, this is going to take, X amount of days. And those last few days were definitely sort of a big push, I think. Especially sort of the library end was taking, just taking a bit of time to finish up, and Otter really went to town on that.
Yeah, I was definitely stressed the first couple weeks, just until we had like a final map shape and whatnot. So there was probably a decent amount of cut content from early on where there was like a discussion if this was actually going to be Star Wars or like not Star Wars. Like Levis made a lot of things that were like spacey but not Star Warsy. So unfortunately we had to cut, I guess, non-Star Wars stuff. But yeah, no, honestly, the last couple days were more fun than stressful. In terms of like getting it done in 4 weeks, I mean, I guess the repetitive nature of a lot of the buildings, the fish rocks, once you see it done in a certain way, you can replicate it pretty much elsewhere. So I think honestly, like week 2 and 3 was harder, but the last week was.
Yeah, I think once we'd established sort of the style and the landscaping, it sort of came together a bit easier, I think, and easier to envision what it might look like in different areas.
Exactly.
Without insulting anybody, okay, what was there anything that you were surprised that another person built that you were like, wow, that's like they've really outdone themselves? Were there any moments like that, or were you quite sort of like confident in each other going into it?
Well, confident, I'd say. Yeah.
Fair enough. With such experienced builders, such as you guys who built on this one, I bet you were kind of like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, I think the library interior, I was like really happy with how Otter did it. It was sort of very sort of these huge cavernous kind of things, and
was that a point that you were nervous about going into it? You're like, oh, we've got to do these libraries. Like, if we don't get that right.
Originally, there was a pretty big sort of kind of dome sort of structure on it, and sort of in the last few days, we decided it's getting kind of in the way of everything. So I think that was, in terms of the macro, trying to think about it, that was a struggle for me.
Yeah. I wanted to have like a really cool ornate roof to it, but it was clunky and distracting. But in terms of the library, it was. Well, I mean, I wasn't nervous in the build processes, and when we completed the park, it was when all the comments started rolling in, and people were like, the library just seems like an afterthought, or I could have done without it. And I'm like, damn, that's what I spent the most time on. It's like, thanks, guys.
Yeah, people chat a lot of nonsense, though, don't they? Like, I don't know. I think
it's because it's open to the back as well. It does take up about like a third of the map when you include like the entrance to it, and
yeah.
And I think if it had been bigger, it might be sort of I don't know, feel like wasted space maybe.
Yeah.
Something that I view as like a risk, but came off really well in my opinion, is like forking over like the entire middle of the map to like quite a bit of negative space. Was there a big decision that had to be made there, or did that just come easily to the process? Was that done without a second thought kind of thing?
Yeah, I think like Otter came in with this idea for the Rift. I was originally, I don't know, for the middle I wasn't really envisioning it much. I was thinking, oh, maybe we'll just have like town areas here, but Otter came in and I think him and Levis worked on the Rift and sort of pushed that idea that it could sort of be a negative space area. Not that it's empty or anything, but still, a lot of great landscaping and the walkways and stuff.
Yeah, of course. I was very, very deliberate in my language there. It is a bit of breathing room in the middle here, isn't it? For something that can be quite dense in other areas, you've got to have little bits like that where you can just.
I do think that helped
for it to
time-wise as well, because we could sort of push the bulkier architecture up to the edges, like on the hillside, and that saves you a bit of time instead of having to do 20 odd sort of buildings and cram them into a village. You kind of just have these sort of spotted ones.
Yeah, the idea with the Rift thing was an idea that I pitched was I showed the picture in the park page, but was based on something from Fallout. So I'm like, well, I think it's really cool artwork. So can we put this in a Star Wars park? So unusual, but I just thought it was a cool imagery or landscape feature just to kind of merge two different ideas. Like I think I probably said this a bajillion times in our team chat, but taking a page from the Coco School of Park Making of trying to merge two different, I guess, ideas that are conflicting maybe, or two different IPs, but kind of squish them together. But where it kind of came from was something completely different.
Is there... I think I might know the answer to this, but was there something on this park... I guess it's a two-layered question. Is there something on this park where it was a more complicated process than people might presume, or like vice versa, where something looks quite complicated but it came quite easily? I imagine that could be the library, a library for you guys.
I don't think that was difficult to do. I just procrastinated on it, quite frankly. I thought the outer side, the outer area would be a lot more visually interesting and a lot more detailed. But I mean, I just didn't get around to it until the last week of the build. I think the two, like the entrance columns, those big weird like rounded rock things, those are difficult to make look good. And maybe they look good, I don't know, but that was probably the hardest thing for me.
You got to take those big swings though, don't you?
Yeah. I think you got those in pretty early as well. You're sort of testing out different sort of structures for how sort of ancient entrances and stuff could look for the library. So yeah, I think for me, I guess the fish rocks was probably the stuff it took. I don't know. I was just trying to sort of different ways to try and make the sort of grassy kind of cliffs look. I'm finally settling on the gradient sort of look. Kind of opened it up to me, so it came a bit quicker after that. And then trying out different forms for the circular buildings, and just trying to do different ways of doing those sort of rounded roofs and stuff. Because there are a few sort of similar, basically it's the same sort of 2 or 3 styles throughout the map. But I think it works in the end.
Me too. And this one got the victory, didn't it?
Yeah.
So it was all worth it. But like I say,
I'm happy with the scenes in the side as well. Just because it wasn't really something we set out to do. Say, let's have loads of sort of scenes on the edge.
Vignettes.
But it just sort of, I guess, when you put a lot of the architecture out to the edges, it kind of makes sense to have these open scenes and have these little moments.
Still find that void room of the library dark red. That's so crappy. I can't believe nobody called me out for that. It's so dumb.
But it kind of like it's kind of like it makes sense, It has a verisimilitude in a sense. It might not be the most beautiful and perfect way of doing it, but it doesn't stand out as incorrect. You know what I mean?
True. It's just, I think, a total of 3 objects plus RMC track. Kind of funny.
Hey, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Sometimes life gives you gifts, and life says to you, you can just do an RMC track and 3 objects. You got to accept those things.
Yeah,
I'm not complaining. The thing I really liked on this map was kind of getting us the droid sort of objects and having them sort of run around the map a bit and then getting objects of them. So the R2-D2s sort of just strewn all over the map.
Yeah,
those are huge.
Amazing. Did he make this walking people? Was that available before?
No, that was from... so there's a Viking thinging that time from Last I Dead.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it looks pretty good. It sort of looks believable as a... an inspector or a Jedi or whatever.
No, for sure.
It looks like
absolutely
Cal from Jedi Survivor.
It does kind of, yeah.
A little bit.
Love those little guys.
The young Han Solo with an overcoat.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for sharing the process of this. Really fascinating.
Yeah, of course.
And another note, thanks to Terry for the music as well.
Of course.
Definitely wouldn't be the same park without that sort of ambience.
Like I was saying earlier, everyone's really sort of capitalized on the new save format and just the easy availability of like making sure that, because if you did custom music before, there was no guarantee people were gonna put it on.
People might end up with some random music from another park on.
So in some levels, it was kind of safer to not have custom music. So I wonder what...
Go back to...
Go on?
I mentioned right at the very beginning when you open the park what part Levis did. If you zoom in on the dam that separates the water from the rift, that was Levis's.
Whereabouts were we looking?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of squeezed in. So where the rift would go towards the water, you've got on the other side towards the cliffs.
Rotate one more
like
time.
A small sort of wall and sort of dam area.
And there's a droid hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot of the rift like shape and all the water effects and stuff.
It looks really cool, like the way that it's sort of like sort of like pulses along, like especially this part here. That's really cool.
Yeah, 100% intentional.
Sometimes these beautiful moments just occur. Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, son.
Anytime. I'm glad that you're able to make it. Let's see if we can get Alex on the go. You around, Alex? You able to unmute if you are?
Hey.
Hey, dude. What we saying?
You all right?
Feeling good?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It was so nice to hear from Extreme and Otter.
It's fascinating.
It's really cool.
Hearing about people's process. So
I'm expecting more dot maps as well. Where are all the dot maps, people?
You're really denying the community.
Yeah, I need to make one. Shit.
So
where do you want to start?
Let's start at the entrance. Let's start with whose idea was it?
I guess, like, you mean the whole park concept, or?
Yeah, like you know, how did it come to be, I suppose, is a more appropriate question.
Okay, so I had this...
I'll just say, just before you go, Alex, I'll just give my little speech. Yeah. I'm sure that you're 100% aware. Keep it relevant to the park. We don't want any sort of like accidental infractions of rules and like leaks and whatnot.
Oh yeah, of course.
I know that you're not gonna. I know that the other guys won't. But like, I'm just trying to articulate fully transparently.
Yeah.
Let's not break any rules by accident, because that's the last thing we need. Please go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
No, I had this itch to build something more realistic, I guess, with like rides that were rides rather than like kind of narrative things.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically build an amusement park. Like that was what I wanted to do, and I wanted it to have a very like layered and busy feeling. Basically like a few Japanese parks that I was looking at, like most notably with the dueling roller coasters, the Expo Land, and also there's this other one called Tamatech, I think, or it's maybe used to be a park, but not anymore. And there was just this image I saw of it, and it had this kind of like ride spaghetti, and I was like, yeah, this is something I want to kind of capture, like having something which feels very classically roller coaster tycoon, but then kind of executed with a level of finesse and with some kind of like legibility. And then the kind of, yeah, I suppose that's like what I wanted to make in terms of like the theme. It was more like just a case of picking something that felt like fairly, I suppose, sort of techie in a way, like, and having also like a bit of context of like maybe like former infrastructure. So that's why we went with this like radio theme, that it would be like you would have this kind of buildings that were something else before, and maybe, yeah, some of it is still in use, like around the radio tower, and by the entrance, kind of I imagine this larger building to be like a museum of radio technology. Yeah, and in terms of the setting of Tbilisi in Georgia, it was just like, yeah, it seemed a nice choice because it's on this hill and it has this landmark tower and this big Ferris wheel. There's also an amusement park there, but it's nothing like this. But yeah, oh yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to make a park that had a lot of elevation change and kind of, yeah.
Ooh, where's your
The
microphone?
architecture, interesting.
Sorry.
Huh? Sorry,
I don't know whether it cut out for anybody else, but just that last part. Could you just repeat that last part?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I wanted to make something that had quite drastic elevation changes.
Yeah.
And then have like buildings that would be sort of across a few stories and maybe like on stilts or this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So mostly it was like kind of aesthetic ideas that I wanted to try, rather than it being sort of like so driven by a specific narrative, you know.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
More than one way to skin a cat, my friend. Is one of your pastimes going on roller coaster database and just hitting random coaster? Is that something that you do?
Not really, no. Like I'm not like such a enthusiast either. Like I don't have like a great knowledge of these things. It's just like sometimes when I'm chatting to like, I don't know, someone like Brian, then like send me some like cool reference. And I'm like, fuck, I want to,
yeah.
I want to make that. You know? Yeah, are you familiar with the rides that these two coasters are based off?
Not the exact ones, but
yeah,
I have such an appreciation for. There's so many rides in like the Far East, in like East Asia, that are just the most aesthetically disparate from what we have in like Western coasters, and I have no real idea why. But they are so fascinating, and they have this level of like beauty, like what you've brought here. So when I opened it up, I was just like, okay, this is fundamentally appealing to me on a personal level. Just seeing that the way they do stuff is so strange. They're very like all this like unbanked stuff and all this like huge flat sections and very strangely motivated like elevation changes. You just wonder what's going through their head when they're designing it. And it's got this such like unique particular aesthetic that I just think's crazy and great. So I just wondered like whether you had that process, because they basically always come up on when you're just hitting random over and over on Roller Coaster Database.
Yeah, well, I've never tried that, but definitely like I agree with you, and I'm always kind of looking for stuff that I haven't built before in terms of rides.
Yeah,
and like, you know, I don't really want to build any more B&M coasters or any more like.
Well, you know what I feel about that, so you're preaching to the choir.
So yeah, it's just a case of like trying something that's that I haven't done so much before. And I think this was a nice outlet for these new track pieces as well, like making use of these kind of diagonal turn
Yeah, absolutely.
hill kind of things. Yeah.
That's something that I really enjoyed about it as well, was just the leaning into the new possibilities. Because just straight up, this, you wouldn't think to look at it, but this ride wouldn't have been possible to do. It would have been so different, and it wouldn't have had the particular flow and the particular like idiosyncratic strangeness. And maybe you wouldn't have bothered before because you wouldn't have been able to do the strange motivations of like the turns and stuff. Like why were these decisions made by some designer somewhere?
Yeah.
Love it to pieces. So just remind me, who built on this with you?
So Ulvenwood, or Emil, as his real name is, and then Roigbiv,
yes,
also known as Sam. Yeah, and they were great at contributing all these kind of details. Like you see around the entrance, there's this frequency van. There's these 5G protesters. There's this like. There's tons of stuff scattered around, like fun little details, and it's stuff that people really appreciated in the match thread. Like a lot of people point to these things and like, oh, this is really cool. So it's like, yeah, it was really good to have teammates who are good at these kind of things, because I'm definitely like not such a small details guy. So it's but. Yeah, for the most part, in terms of like the macro layout and stuff, and I suppose the kind of groundwork for everything, I took care of myself. And then this larger building next to the tower, that was mostly by Rogbiv.
This one.
Yeah. And also he did the Ferris wheel supports and kind of base and everything like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And this Ferris wheel is pretty cool because it's I don't think these objects have been used before. They were already released, but I hadn't seen anyone use them yet. So it's kind of nice to.
Crazy.
But I could be wrong about that, but I don't think I've seen a park yet that had them in. But it's really nice. And yeah, you can also make your own supports and stuff like you did here. Yeah, and then also Ulvenwood did a load of like signs and stuff like that. Like he did this wild moss sign on the side of the he did this. He did this macaroni. There's this like
this one.
Yeah, it's genius. So it's called Marconi's macaroni. So Marconi was this Italian pioneer of radio waves, radio technology. So it's just a very, very cheap pun, but yeah, got a lot of time for that.
No, all the puns and stuff were a delight in this park.
Yeah.
Something that I want to point out is just how like finished it is. You know, it's very, very realized. And for round 1, 4 weeks, were there any particular areas where you were like, that were a particular challenge in such a time frame, or did it all come quite naturally?
We're pretty like, I mean, I grinded quite a lot to get things done in good time, but I think it was just these like last days, like this kind of like final layer of detail, and that's when like my co-builders really came through with adding stuff. I think a lot of comments about the like the sort of the kind of edge of the map. Some of the foliage is a bit raw, and the kind of underbush and rock work, which I think is fair, but I also don't care that much. To me, it's like it's quite low value. Like when I think the foliage, like in all the planters and sort of, and like the sort of tree placement on the edges is kind of very deliberately done so that everything's legible. But then stuff like underbush, I'm like, you know what, this isn't such like high impact stuff. So I'm kind of like, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like, I would rather it be quiet and not sort of stand out than something which is, Anyway, I'm kind of going off on one, but this was like the one thing that I think a few people pointed out was like a little bit raw, and I think it's fair to say that. But it's not something that I have like some kind of regrets about.
Of course, you've got to pick your battles, and it's definitely a better choice to pick the battles like in here. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, in an ideal world, things would have been different, but like we have the world that we have, and also don't regret the decisions that we made. You know, and that's the important thing. I think people were pointing it out just because the rest of the quality was so sort of stratospheric. So it's kind of like the thing that they'd be like, well, everything else is kind of perfect. Where's the imperfection? So, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but also like have faith in your decision making. Like you probably shouldn't have spent more time on the foliage. You know, of course, you would know that best. So of course I'm preaching to the choir, but I just wanted to validate probably the feelings that you were articulating there. Just like this. What I was thinking whilst you were talking and stuff is like, there's no way you like come across like even like this area here that doesn't just happen. Like that's like. Yeah,
that took a few attempts actually, and like, are you familiar with this park in Barcelona? This Tibidabo, is it?
I don't think
it's
so.
Like it's like on a hill above Barcelona, and basically there's a lot like there's this kind of like multi-layered thing going on with like different sort of terraces and rides on different levels, and that was a bit what I was trying to go for there. And I really like how the kind of this helicopters ride sort of gives a really clear depth because of like how the supports are. Like you can tell sort of like, okay, there's a big change in the elevation here. So that was definitely, this kind of thing was something I was trying to play with a lot, like sort of this layering and having a lot of rides on top of one another. I think like if there's one thing that I maybe in hindsight not super happy with in the macro, it's that like the landscape's kind of strange in that it's like a bit of a square plateau, and maybe what I should have done is have more of the park like lower down, a bit like the entrances, you know? Like because the kind of the park proper is all sort of like more or less on one level, and I think that might have but then it was also led by getting the rides in place, like especially the coasters. Like, so once they're down, it was kind of like, you know, it was quite difficult to make some areas drastically lower, because then you have these like really tall supports, and it starts to kind of lose the sense of realism.
Yeah. That's when you make the land higher.
True, yeah.
But I personally don't detect that as so much of an issue. I think it comes across really well, and like especially like the layering in here, like the complex layering there is just absolute music to my eyes, I suppose. That's definitely the thing. You probably see it in my park making. That's the sort of thing that I strive for. Try and get this like absolute mess to look beautiful, and that's something that you've really achieved really well. And the macro is all immaculate, if you will. Just even these like stupidly shaped buildings, like this shouldn't look as good as it does. And this like funky thing here, like amazing. Big tower in the middle, terrible idea, looks amazing. This building, love it to bits. These signs, all the sign work from everybody. I know it was like a group effort, but like guys, such a good job. These are beautiful. All of the puns, amazing. Yeah, I really love this part.
The mosaic signs were really a pain to make.
Like this one.
To be honest. Yeah.
I don't even know how you did it.
So they're made out of these like tiny glass pieces.
Yeah.
And you basically like each piece, there's 8 possibilities per quarter tile. So it's really like, you have to have like a few of them placed on the ground, and then you just eye drop and try and, it's really a headache.
Yeah.
But it was worth it, I think. I think it was.
It's very like striking.
Yeah.
In a way that you perhaps wouldn't presume from just having like a little mosaic, which has been seen a million times. But especially like, is it something that you hopped in Photoshop and like prototyped out beforehand, or did you just do it raw?
No, I did. Yeah, I did a few sketches first in Photoshop with like the kind of a grid of pixels, knowing the kind of space I had to use. Because something like this, if I just try it raw, I know I'm gonna have to I know it's probably not gonna fit, and I'm gonna have to waste all that time. So it was definitely important to sketch it first. Yeah.
Amazing. Like even like this structure here where it like plays into the supports for the coasters. And like, why do they do supports like that? All these crazy coasters always have these like insane supports.
Yeah, they're pretty beefy. It was funny, that carousel, actually. It was a bit of like an accident, because I was trying all different designs for the canopy, and then it was like, oh, this is really awkward because it's just bumping into the supports. And then I was like, oh, well, like, probably I should make that feature, and maybe it could actually be built into the supports and kind of hanging from them. And I really like how that came to be.
Did you find yourself struggling with like sight lines and stuff with all of this like height variation and stuff, where you're like, oh crumbs, I built this thing in cutaway view, just looking at like the little area, and now I've built it, and now I can't see the hard work I've done? Was there any of that stuff going on? Because that's always an issue with height variation in parks.
No, to be honest, no, because I'm pretty obsessive about these things. Like early on, like I'm quite like making sure everything's nice from 4 angles, and if there's any like weird perspective things happening, I'm like making sure it's not there. And so no, that's something that I think I really yeah, especially with a park this busy, like I realized the importance of legibility and yeah, so.
Are there any moments in this park that you feel like went a bit underappreciated and you want to highlight in this moment, or is there
No, I don't think so, you know. I was pretty happy with the reception it got, and I don't think there was anything that would that people really missed. Like everyone mentioned, like the mosaics and the I mean, not many people no one was really like loving the coasters. I don't think, which is fine. It's not to everyone's taste, but
well, I did, Alex, and didn't
I was really, huh?
Well, I did, and I feel like you made this park for me, so I guess you were very successful in that.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there was there's anything hidden that people didn't spot. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I wonder does Ulvenwood want to say anything, because he's also here.
Pipe up, my friend. Get in here if there's anything any insight you want to give, or if you want to shit talk Alex, I'm all ears.
I like to say Alex is a beast.
Really? So you don't think he's difficult to work with then?
Well, I was afraid to get into the architecture, so I just decided to do some detailing in this park. But seeing the concept come together from start to finish was amazing. All the iterations of every single flat ride and roof he got off map was just really inspiring to learn from.
Yeah, I imagine he had three parks worth of stuff off map.
Yeah, he made like 20 different iterations of the roof for the teacups ride, but then he decided to not put a roof on it, for example.
Yeah, you can see the places where it's like ripped off.
yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. No,
also,
correct.
Maybe
call.
You missed the funicular station, but I think it looks amazing.
Yeah, even just like on the mosaic where it's got like this like drop shadow on it, like just ridiculous.
Yeah. So I was happy to be like a supportive character.
Hey, like,
no, you were great. It was great to build with you.
Yeah, let's not forget the value of the people who get it across the finish line. You know what I mean? It may have been like a 75% Alex, but you know, we need the. It takes a village to finish a head-to-head park, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Also, the rest of the team with like shouting out ideas and stuff like in the last few days, and yeah, it was really good team vibe.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Liam listing like 20 different radio themed words, I would have never came up with Wild Moors, for example.
Yeah. Also, Ulvenwood made a great sort of sound piece, and it's like a kind of mix of like. There's a lot of like radio static, and it's kind of going in and out of stations, and it's quite ambient, but it's like it really gives the map a nice atmosphere, I think. So that was
it took me a bit too long to get it to the right level. But thanks.
Is there anything that you would like to highlight about this park, Ulvenwood? Or are you pretty happy with the rundown that Alex has given? Do you feel like everybody was found everything that needed to be found and whatnot?
I just really like the entrance and the playground.
Yeah, I like the playground too. For some reason, I keep just wandering back and looking at. I feel like I love this park, man. I feel like every single bit that I look at could just be a screenshot in and of itself. So get this on your profiles, guys. You know, get the beautiful screens going. Is this actually Morse code?
Yes.
Oh. Yes, definitely yes.
What does it say then?
It says. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I go. It says time to move on to the next park.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. I'd love to chat for longer, but I'm really bored with what you were saying, so let's move on.
Thanks, man.
Lots of love, guys. Really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us here today and giving us
thanks
the
for
insight
doing
on the
this.
bike.
Really fun. Okay, bye.
You're very welcome indeed. Take care now.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Do we have a JK on standby?
Hey, how's it going?
And anyone else who's around, by the way, if you send me a DM, I have got my phone open with Discord on. I'm sorry I've not been reading the chat, but I am but one man. So please give me a direct message if you're around and you want to chat, or just like jump on mic. It's by no means like a closed mic situation here, but I understand that everyone wants to be respectful to the people who are talking and whatnot. So I'm really thankful for you guys being so respectful as well. Lots of love. So JK, you built on, I believe, Constellations, is that correct?
Something like that. I can't remember the name now.
Right, let's crack it open and see what's going on here. Don't you just love how in the like current versions of Open, it just freezes for like 4.5 hours every time you open a new park?
Yeah.
So yeah, JK, I'll give you the rundown as well. I've been given to everybody. Let's not chat about anything that could get us disqualified. Keep it relevant to the park. Yeah, and yeah, try not to get your team disqualified because I feel like they would be quite upset about that after all the hard work that went in. So,
yeah.
JK, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, guilty.
Yes, very good. How did this park come to be?
So we were throwing a load of ideas around on a mirror board. All the team were inputting their ideas, and we had a few builders that put their hand up and said they wanted to build round one. That was you and Dina, and I really wanted to chip in on round one. And then we kind of talked together and we kind of settled on a medieval style theme with an astrological twist. But the hard work came trying to sell the theme to you guys, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say that me and Simon, not to speak for Simon, obviously, but I feel like we were very much like, hey, if you believe in it, we're on board. We go wherever you go, kind of thing. So actually getting the sort of ideas sort of flowing in our heads was a different matter, but we always had faith that you knew what you were on about.
I was pretending at the time.
Well, you know, it's like fake it till you make it. Like, I know that it's sort of like a cliche, but it is so true at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was looking on Pinterest for some artwork that I really liked. So I was dumping that on the mirror board, getting the kind of the vibes happening. And then yeah, we got Midjourney just to help support a little bit of AI for some of the concepts that we had in our head and to start pushing some of the ideas that we couldn't necessarily source online elsewhere. So yeah, Midjourney really helped kind of formalize some of those ideas at the start. Most importantly, I'd say the medieval buildings built into like the caves on the side. We knew that we wanted like cave buildings, high elevation, lots of kind of greenery going up the grey to break up the kind of really big grey kind of sections as well. So yeah, we started on the medieval building, the other side, and we started kind of formulating that. I think at that point, I was trying to sell the theme to you guys that much that we weren't even thinking about rides at this section. I was like, okay, just get the theme down to some extent, just so we can keep going with this, and it's not just necessarily like a medieval theme, for example. So structures centered around the medieval buildings to kind of start pulling that astronomical vibe out of the theme.
Hey, you've got to get the ball rolling somehow, don't you? So we definitely shouldn't be discussing regrets. Oh, we can discuss.
No,
of course we can.
I'm definitely going to say it's too soon to be viewing this park right now.
No, yeah, for me as well. Like, I don't know about you, Johnny, but I'm sort of looking at it thinking, oh, I wish I'd changed that.
I see some floating books a few places, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, come on, guys.
Yeah, but we literally would like down to the last second in sort of like putting stuff in, weren't we? Which
pretty much
can
most of the crunch,
yeah, can be interpreted as like poor time management. But this was just such an undertaking that I don't think that even the most efficient builder could have done it much quicker than we did. It really is just so much Roller Coaster Tycoon in one park to make in a month. Which I feel like has contributed to a lot of the people having so much enjoyment from it. I can't do that thing that I've been doing on the other parks, which is like cheerleading the audience perspective with this. But I'll try to anyway. So for you, JK, what was the biggest challenge for you when approaching this just whole undertaking? You got to make a park in 4 weeks. How do you do that?
Yeah, first quarter of the build, I'd say, was selling the theme to you guys. So much so that because we were focusing on the architecture and the theme, I'd say that some of the the coasters just weren't a thing in the first 25% of the park. So because we wanted to get the base landscape down as well, the decision was made to like hold back from doing the coaster, but that proved quite difficult for us, right? Because the park didn't feel like a park until the coaster was in there.
Would you say that any of the builders were being like whiny little bitches the whole time about that, saying, "Oh, the coaster has to come first," that sort of thing? Is there anyone you want to call out in this moment?
I would never, ever put on my team in that one.
That was Dino. No, I'm joking. That was me. So this coaster was me, and it was a bit of a challenge, to be honest, because I feel like there was a lot of scope to do a lot of different things, and actually settling on something that we felt worked took a minute. And that I'm really glad for the whole team for having such like feedback and getting back to it, because I really feel like it pushed it to a place where it's like it's something that's really resonated with people. And I really love this ride, to be honest. I feel like huge shout out to Dino for doing a lot of the legwork in this area, for actually contextualizing the coaster. Because it could have gone a very different way, but because of all the sketching that happened, I don't know whether you were involved with that, JK, as well, but I think it was Dino who put a lot of the stuff in here to sort of preserve sight lines, all that sort of thing, and like build up the environment around the coaster. Because it's one thing to make a coaster, definitely. But you've got to sell it as well, don't you? You can't just plop it down and be done.
Completely. I think I really, really, really like this layout a lot. What you're good at is those kind of really swoopy, flowing, intertwining layouts. And like I said to you when we were building this, you could build in any space and you would adapt to it, which is like a really rare kind of thing with coaster designers. So yeah, I just really, really enjoyed looking at this. I remember when we finally got to this layout, because there was one build where you just placed a boomerang at one point, I think, because you were you were fed up with just trying some layouts, and not things weren't working, but in your head they weren't working. And we were all absolutely loving everything that you did. And I just remember opening the park once and it was just a boomerang in this space.
Yeah, that was like fully like a tantrum moment from me. I was just like, it's not working, nothing's going right. I can't seem to like make something that's like meeting the quality of what you guys were already like well into cracking on with. And I'm like, oh God, I'm building round one and I can't get this coaster in and I've not got enough time because we have to get it in because we have to build the rest of the things and you can't be, you know, I felt a lot of self-imposed pressure there. I don't think it was coming from anywhere else, but I was just getting really I don't even think that like I was imagining pressure from elsewhere. I think I was like, it was very much like self generated, where I was like, I know that we need to get it in to like get going, and you were like, just relax mate, everything's going to be sound, and I was like, no it's not. It's going to be terrible. But you know, like hindsight's 2020, it did pan out really well, and it was very short-lived sort of feeling. Obviously I'm an adult. So it wasn't actually an issue, but it was in that boomerang moment. It was a huge crisis in Samtown.
I think that was probably like the first 40% of the build, and then we got the coaster layout in, and then everything became just so much easier after that.
Just this whole area, I'm just completely in love with. I'm pretty much in love with this, like, from, like, every angle. It's just got such... It was such a joy to build with you, JK, as I'm sure every builder who's ever built with you has said. Just really fascinating to watch your process of building. And this huge castle was fairly late in the process. This started sort of coming to be. It was after we were schooled by Nin, wasn't it?
Yeah. I remember that, yeah. We knew we wanted to build a castle, but everything that I was building and I was placing on the map, because it just had like green grass around it, it just felt really strange. And I was like, oh God, that's such a big, huge monument, and it's going to look really ugly if we don't blend it and put loads of like environmental stuff around it. I was getting really worried about it, that I was just building this huge monstrosity. And then we started building off it, and then Nin came in with a sketch, and Nin was like, no, I'm kind of digging the big structure. It's got impact. And it was like, okay, thank you for calming me down. And then we just went for it. So the whole palace section.
And I think just for like a little add-on to that story, I think I think you were kind of like, oh, it's because you were talking about like that context sort of thing. I think you were like, is it too big? Is it? Have I done it too big? And then Nin came in and went, it needs to be bigger. And then you made it bigger instead. That's it. It takes the whole team to build a park at the end of the day.
It does.
Please continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's okay. So you, I opened the park one day and you'd essentially done the bare bones of the dome of the huge structure, but elsewhere and different colours. And I was like, that dome looks amazing with different colours. That's exactly the vibe I want. So then the rest was history. Started with the dome, built the spire upwards, and then kept building the different floors by just raising the palace up a level, basically. So we built from the roof down as opposed to bottom up, and that really helped just make sure like every single part of the building had the right amount of detail in all the different levels. So that was really cool. So the whole palace section is mostly me. I think it is.
I think it was completely you. There's bits of Che. There's bits of Dino here and there because he did a lot of the walls, didn't he?
Yeah, Dino did all the walls surrounding it. Yeah,
but I think this whole stuff here is pretty much JK central.
Yeah,
I feel like it really speaks to like your strengths as a builder as well. It's so JK, just really leaned into your strengths, which was just a delight.
Yeah. If you zoom in just for a second, I just want to give a shout out to Amusement Parker as well, because some of the objects he did just really allowed us to elevate the theme. So yeah, he did this kind of astronomical clock.
My game has stopped working.
Yeah, it was 2x2. So we just used that as like kind of really laid it up, had this like cool texture happening behind that. It's quite busy, but I feel that like painters of that time would have built and painted the building that way. And then if you go up as well to the spire,
we get these books.
Oh yeah, the books as well. So we've got this kind of aqua texture there around the dome that Parker also made. So just go down a little bit near the sun. There you go. This kind of really nice texture behind there. So that was based off just a Mid-Journey prompt that we turned into a wall for the park. Again, just we thought builders or painters of that time would have painted this big kind of citadel in kind of that way. So that was really fun.
And of course,
then,
there's these
those horoscopes we were trying to use and incorporate around the buildings of the park. Just so instead of like roof railings, they were actually the horoscopes that were forming this really unique pattern on the buildings. So yeah, we've got the Aries symbol on top of Sammy's building there, and I think we've got another symbol.
This is, for the most part, this is JK Town, isn't it? This is Dino, built this beautiful alchemist guild.
That's and Sai did a lot as well, where we can see the kind of the ground sections where they've got loads of books on them and loads of bags. So Sai did kind of the underground detailing and context, which looks absolutely incredible.
It's just like half diagonal depth.
Yeah, I built all the paths and all the walls and stuff, and did all the foliage, and then the small details.
I just want to ask JK, just really quickly, Lamp Apocalypse, was that solved?
Apocalypse. I think we sold it. I think POSIX might have sorted it.
Oh, okay.
At release stage.
Because that was a huge problem for us, wasn't it? This like lamp object which would just show up, but just for me and like two other people, there'd just be lamps everywhere.
I remember Shay replaced it when we were on multiplayer, and we weren't seeing the devastation that it caused. But I think when we were preparing the overview for the park to be released, it was popping up, I think, on one of the admins' screens, which wasn't great.
Yeah, I saw that in the actual release it was gone, and that was obviously amazing. So all of these structures, like these like devices and stuff, a lot of them were just straight up you, weren't they?
The more astrological stuff. I mean, this side of the map is pretty much you guys. I did a couple of buildings.
Dino and me.
Yeah, I did a couple of buildings near the waterfall. I did the Zodiac Wheel, and then Shay did all the underground rock work near the waters, and then I think Shay did the fake water, right?
Yeah, and he also did the supports for the coaster, which was honestly such a huge task to get out of the way. So I really can't thank him enough, because I can't do supports. I'm just so bad at them. I can do pretty much anything else if needed, but like supports, I'm just like, no. I told Jake I'm famously bad at supports. I'd love to do them, but I can't. But this whole area here, like, staggeringly surprising to me was just how amazing Dino is at just like contemporary Roller Coaster Tycoon. Like, isn't he supposed to be an old head? Like, isn't he supposed to be crap?
Yeah, I think
just like this little part here, he built this pretty early on, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
And I did this corner over here, the little Ghibli Rapids section. I don't know why it makes me think of Studio Ghibli. I think it's because I watched Boy and the Heron when that came out, and there's like an overgrown like towery thing there, and it just makes me think of that.
Love it.
So the Rapids were a big collaboration between me and Dino. He sort of got a lot of the broad strokes out, and I came through and sort of turned them into reality. But it's just such a cool little layout that uses the space quite well. In an ideal world, we would have had it go and like mess with the coaster more, but we tried a bunch of stuff and it just didn't work. So I don't see that as a negative so much as, you know, we get the opportunities we get and we use them really effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like, what there was these objects as well, these like wizard objects.
Oh yeah. So Mamarias did the colorable wizard objects. If you zoom in a little bit more, if you can, Trev did the telescope objects CTR for us to use. That is actually peepable, but I couldn't get it working on the park for some reason. I'm really not sure why.
Yeah, there's a
so we just placed them static.
Conspicuous like like entrance sign there that I saw.
Oh, grim. I never saw that.
That's all right. No one else did, I don't think. So we got away with it. There we go.
Yeah, just save the park.
There we go. Now it's
to be fair,
now it's a 96%.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I've seen in the parks. Yeah. Fun.
And then there's the plugin. I don't know how much we want to talk about that because I feel like it did annoy some people as well. But let's run it. Let's see it happen.
Yeah.
This was quite early on. Like this actually got actualized, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were trying stuff out for quite a while with this. What I really like about it is if it annoys you at the speed, you can actually speed your the game speed up, and it happens really fast actually, which is quite nice. But there's a lot of things going on with the plugin. Things that I detailed on the on any forum the other day. One thing I forgot to mention is we wanted all the gold accents of the astronomical equipment to stay present, so not change colour in any way. So that's why we kept like most of the gold present, this kind of like black and gold colour scheme. I think we even made that fifth, whatever the sparkly thing is, we changed that color so it became extra sparkly. It used to be gold in the game, but now it's like bright white. So we just tried a load of stuff really to kind of ham up, even add in sparkle to the side of the map there where it's not actually there on the non-plugin version, or the non-Eclipse version. So we just went to town on it. But this is why we couldn't release it to the rest of the forums, because it was so indicative of this theme that we could possibly release an Eclipse plugin afterwards, but not with some of the customizations that have been put on it.
And you did these like fairly late in the game, didn't you? I feel like it wouldn't be the same without it.
Yeah, they were grim. It took me so long to do them.
Worth every second, in my opinion.
Oh, cool. See that balloon floating near Gemini? That's pretty sick.
What a park.
Yeah,
Let's get it back.
Really fun. But yeah, you can speed it up actually on the game speed, and if you rotate it like 90 degrees, it always looks really nice as well.
Just crashed my game.
Sorry. That's pretty cool viewing it from that angle as well.
Yeah, all the map edges were done by Dino as well. Really beautiful. They kind of mess up on my game, but I don't think anyone else had the same issues that I did.
Yeah,
it's
the Hencart lamp.
This isn't the lamp. This is something else. It's a different object every time. I'm not sure what does it. Yeah. If I open this up again, it'll be a different object. Should we test that theory?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Sucks.
It's just, it's definitely something on my end, so I didn't sort of harp on it all that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that issue there. I know it's still doing it. It's probably if I reboot my game. But like these little vignettes here, this whole side of the thing, this is all classic JK. I love this little alchemy kitchen thing. So cool. It's like
I messaged Barbar actually after we released the park, because Barbar released a micro called the Alchemist Guild, and that was, I'd say, like RCT inspiration for this whole park. Obviously, we didn't look at it like we looked at it in the early stages, basically. But just to say to like Barbar, like, thanks for inspiring this concept. Obviously, we've taken it a different way, but Barbar just really comes up with these killer themes. It's really exciting to watch Barbar do his thing, basically. So yeah, we just threw a shout out to Barbar for the Alchemist Guild.
Love Barbar. Really glad we got a round one park from him to really just demonstrate how fast he builds and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Outstanding.
On to the next one.
Of course, the astronomical tower. Pièce de résistance.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Are you happy with that explanation?
Yeah, no, for sure. Just shout out to Shay, you, and Dino. Honestly, it's one of the best head-to-head parks I've ever built. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing the space.
Very welcome. Thank you for drafting me. Thank you for letting me be part of such a cool-ass team. Looking forward to the rest of the contest. And doing future projects with everybody involved, because honestly, it was delightful. I'd say the one thing I didn't like about it was the time constraint. Everything else was just so cool.
Yeah, me too.
Amazing. So looking forward to building with these guys again. On the finals park, which when we will win the contest. Sorry, everyone, to give a spoiler, but you know it's going to happen. Amazing.
I'm visualizing it already. Don't worry.
Who else is a wound? Who else is a wound? Oh, we got Josh. Josh, do you want to jump in, mate? I'm going to open up the beautiful... Oh, there's me trying
My
to...
dogs will probably start barking, so I don't know.
That's all right.
We're visiting the in-laws this weekend, and they can hear everything, so they bark at everything they see.
That's all right. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We shall burn that bridge when we get to it, as what would happen in hell, of all places. So, if you are able to speak, talk us through the origins of this idea and how it came to be.
It's basically, I wanted to keep building adventure clubs parks. And Scoop was powerless to stop me.
Well, exactly. If you come with a round one park, who's he to say no to that?
Yeah, no, this was one of the ideas I pitched last head to head, and I wanted to do, and we started kind of implementing it in our finals park, like the Adventurers Club, like the underground section was supposed to have like a Hellwater park, and it just never happened, because of just time constraints. But yeah, I think the goal for this was to get a lot more whimsical architecture, like a lot more, crazy spires and like curvy bits and stuff. But we ran through it so quickly, and a lot of it was initially meant to be placeholder, like, so a lot of the really blocky buildings and stuff we threw them in there very quick, and I don't know if Jimmy's in here or Mavericks. He's like, these are all terrible, delete them, but we'll go back and you and Mopia can fix them, and we never fixed them. So they're not bad. They're just, we wanted everything to be a lot more intricate and just didn't have the time. So, but at the same time, we're not complaining. Like it turned out like the overall vibe kind of nailed what I wanted it to be. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that to look at it to think that, you know, it wasn't like a fully actualized idea. I've said it for every park, but this is just such like a finished, complete contribution to the contest. You know, it's more than what we could have ever hoped or asked for.
It's definitely finished, but it's more of like a first draft. You know, like there's some things that are really polished and some things that are a little rough. If this was like a later, like a round 2 or a round 3, where we had more time to really refine things, I think that would have been a lot nicer. But at the same time, we're very happy with the way it came out, because, you know, it still nails the theme that we're going for. You know, it was a lot of, you know, building it from the ground up. I think I shared a time lapse. I'll post it again, but like, you know, the amount of objects we had to place to get this to where we wanted it, with, you know, the fake lava and all the rocks and everything. It was definitely a lot, and that took away from the architecture, I think. But I'm glad that we were able to nail the lava the way we wanted to, because I think that was more important, I think, than the architecture.
Yeah, it definitely sets the tone, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know, like all the sharp rocks, I think, was a big thing. Ethan made like a couple new objects for like mega light kind of supports, like the really tall, sharp, spiky things. He started making a set, so we used them here to make them really sharp. So I think it gives it a good aesthetic. But this park, to be honest, it's very like, I'd probably say art directed in a sense, where it's like I would build like a small amount off to the side and then say, okay, now copy that. And then I'd wake up the next morning and they'd have like half of the map already copied. Like, so it's like I was very much influencing like the colors and the style, but I wasn't actually building until the very end. But
because you're lazy.
Yeah, that's the main reason. You know, the strip club was kind of funny. Like every time I'd mention it, Scoop would roll his eyes and say it's stupid, and which made me want to make it even more. So I meant to have a separate music track for the DJ for young Gustav. Just didn't have time. And then of course in the strip club, Fred and Levis are in there because, you know, why else? Who else would be there? Fred actually requested to be in the strip club, so. But no, it's funny. I think my initial idea, I felt bad for my team because I would just like give them so many dumps of ideas, just true Gustav Wall of Text style kind of like, here's an idea dump. I just got out of the shower. Here's all my ideas. But it's like,
just got back.
I initially wanted to do like the play upon like the nine circles of hell type theme. So like the first circle of hell is limbo. So we were going to have like a limbo contest. The second circle I think was lust. So that's where the strip club came from. And we were going to like literally brand each part. So like each section was going to be an actual circle thematically somehow, you know, with a number, and kind of really make that play into the architecture or like the layout to where it kind of makes sense as you navigate the map. You're looking for the next circle. We ran out of time, to be honest, but some of the ideas were pretty fun. Like I think greed is one of them. So we were going to do like a casino, obviously. I think, was it fraud was one? So I was going to put a call center, like a scam call center. Another thing too was the dark ride that we started with, like the cars that go up and down. It turned out very undercooked because I waited literally till the last 30 minutes to start theming it on my trackpad on my laptop at my parents' house, because we meant to start it much earlier, but that one was supposed to be different levels of, you know, like mundane, terrible places to be in real life. So it's like it was going to be a super contrast to like the demonic outside, and it would be like you walk inside and, oh, you're in the DMV, or oh, you're in a Jimmy John's or an Arby's, or like just terrible places.
Yeah. Sorry
if anyone actually likes Arby's, but
you shouldn't.
Yeah, I think we were going to put the Republican National Convention in one of the rooms.
Well, that offends me as a card-carrying Republican.
Yeah.
The use
So
of these chains was awesome.
There's
as well.
a lot of like ideas that didn't make it because there's so many ideas you can use for this. But the biggest thing that I wanted to make sure we didn't do is like, oh, it's hell, let's put Nazis and stuff. Like, no, let's stay away from that. Like, it's still meant to be a fun park as much as the imagery is not. So it's like we're not gonna do like the dumb like, oh, Saddam Hussein's here. Like we did a few of them like kind of humorous, but like not leaning into it. You're not going to find Hitler or Jeffrey Dahmer in here. Like, you'll find Margaret Thatcher and Attila the Hun fighting, but that's about it. We did put Stephen Hawking on a staircase, and his power chair got right kind of where you are, like right by the blue thing. It's like a peep. There was meant to be a mobility scooter that got deleted on accident, and I know it's a really bad taste joke. I know Postix will be upset. But he was in the Epstein logs, so it's justified. He's probably there.
Hey,
that was
who am I to contradict the authority?
That was one of our bad taste jokes. There's also the whale from SeaWorld that kept killing people. It's in the wave pool swimming around somewhere. Very subtle. I can't find it half the time.
Little dolphin.
It's the water. No, so the chains, yeah, Jimmy added those kind of late into it. They were always a part of like the concept art that I wanted to do. We just we couldn't figure out a good way that we wanted to do it, but because we set the map up very kind of symmetrical, playing on the different heights, it kind of worked. Like not doing them from every single side, but the initial view when you look at it head on, it's really symmetrical and it kind of really frames it really well. And then obviously wrapping them around the pillars. But he knocked those out in probably like 30 minutes. Like it was crazy.
It's mad how that happens in head-to-head, isn't it? You'll just be like, you'll do the most remarkable thing you've ever built in your life in literally like 4 minutes before the deadline.
Yeah, and that's how it goes. I mean, the progress on this park, I will say, like it was very, very steady from the beginning. Like it wasn't being worked on, but most of the progress was spent on the landscaping and the rocks. And I probably didn't start building until the last maybe week. Like I built the portal essentially, pasted it in, and then let them do all the hard stuff for 2 weeks. So I gave them a sketch, made the kind of spinning portal, made the peep objects, and then they did the rest. And then at the end, I went and I built the Wiggles stage, the Kumba statue, and the cage fighting thing.
Yeah, I think the Wiggles stage is definitely my favorite part of it. It's just so unhinged.
Well, it's funny because like I finished it and it was just like a metal structure, like a concert stage. And then Scoop kept arguing with me, saying I needed to make it more bony and make it look more like thematic. And I kept telling him, no, that's not what I wanted to do. But I eventually listened to him and added kind of like the bone accents, and he was actually right. So, and that turned out cool. I'm happy with it. Yeah, blackface Wiggles is not a good thing, but that was unintentional.
Hey,
I put the screens in the game, and I'm like, oh god.
Sometimes you make the Wiggles problematic, and that's just what happens sometimes.
Well, so if it wasn't super clear, the premise of this park is like the peeps that are falling down the center, their faces are a different color. Those are meant to be dead people. So it's, they're like greenish, kind of sickly looking. But the actual real peeps in the game are black because they're meant to be the demons. So we thought about making
read into that.
Yeah, well, we thought about making them red. It looked really weird. So we're like, let's use the void color. I don't know. We're going based. There's different ways to depict it, but
no, of course you got to make a judgment call at some point. And I really like the judgment call. I feel like it's very striking, especially when you're so used to like the original palette. Like it really does set it apart.
Yeah, it was really fun, kind of brainstorming like what people we should include in the cages. Because it's like we don't want to be too offensive, but we also we want to be slightly offensive. So. It's like it's kind of finding that balance. Young Sheldon. So.
Yeah, doing like funny ones is definitely better than doing like genuine ones. Yeah. Stingray who killed Steve Irwin, that offends me. I'm going to delete that one, because that little guy was just doing his job.
That's true. And of course we have OJ Simpson.
He's actually
OJ Simpson driving his car around in circles.
Oh, is Ford Bronco.
Yeah.
Well, we know where he is right now. He's doing that.
We do have Pacific Coaster being summoned and like to join head to head. Oh yeah,
Is that croaked?
For the frog. We did that for Fred. But it's funny. So we decided to do the green flames pretty late into it because we wanted to introduce a different color. Because it's like every single lava park always looks the same, and I know that a lot of people don't like lava parks. They do tend to look pretty samey, I guess. But I think the green kind of made it feel more underworldy, which is kind of what we wanted to go for too.
It looks like Mountain Dew as well, which appeals to me.
It does, yeah. It is a soda, so all the Adventurers Club is at the bar there, or some of them. Again, this was supposed to be an Adventurers Club park that just didn't happen.
Where's Hex?
Hex is actually he's in the circle. He's in the circle pit in front of the stage. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that like joke wise that we meant to include that we didn't, but there was a lot, that just didn't make the cut. But again, it turned out to be a complete-ish, finished park, so I'm pretty happy with it. It's like the only staff member that's in there is Hex. But
let's see if I can snipe.
And we did those like stained glass windows. It's kind of hard to tell what they're supposed to be. One of them is like an ice cream cone, and the other one is like a demon holding a pitchfork.
What was that? Just repeat that last bit.
Like the giant stained glass windows, kind of by the cave. I made those probably like on like the Saturday before it was due. So that one's supposed to be like a demon holding a pitchfork. It's kind of hard to tell from with all the stuff in front of it. And then the one on the right is an ice cream cone. But we really wanted to include this cave because it was so different color-wise than the rest of the map. So,
yeah, I think those decisions are the things that like separate it from something that could be quite overwhelming to something that's a bit more like palatable.
Yeah, something like this, like it's stupid, it's funny, and to me, it's like that's classic head-to-head where it's like we don't want to get too in our own heads and make some kind of groundbreaking, highbrow piece of art. We could do that if we wanted to, but let's make something that's fun. Let's make something that's kind of catered to the community, and let you guys make that. So it's like as I'm making this, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've made in the game so far. But it's kind of fun. It's like as we were reading up on Wikipedia and like different references. The ninth circle of hell is meant to be like a frozen lake with Satan kind of stuck in the lake, upset for eternity. So it's like, oh, there we go. Let's put the son of Kumba stuck in the lake. And then because it's frozen, instead of having people stuck into it with their heads visible, let's just have people ice skating. So it's like, how can we add a layer of fun to something that's obviously not fun?
I love it.
But no, we're happy with it, man. It's sad that we went against you guys, but it's a fun park. I think the overall planning, the way we set up the macro of like trying to make things very tall, very vertical, but not blocking the views too terribly. It's like you're still going to always get those views being blocked no matter what. Yeah. But I think we spread it apart in a way where it's pretty readable if you spend some time in it and you see how it's laid out. It's really not, it's not too difficult of a layout to navigate. But it's still it was very difficult to set it up that way, I guess.
I personally thought, and I think I've told you this already, I thought it was going to be closer because it's just so like tonally different to our one. I thought it would be like a coin flip whether you preferred one to the other kind of thing.
I think we did better than I expected.
Oh, I disagree. Because I think, well, maybe we're both coming at it from the perspective of like we put our like blood, sweat and tears into building our parks, and we're kind of a little bit sick of them in a sense. Not that we think they're bad, obviously, but just we're like overwhelmed by looking at it over and over again. Yeah, I love your park. I think it's so cool.
No, it's a lot of fun, man. I'm happy we did it. I'm glad that they put up with me for those few weeks, dumping ideas and telling them to build stuff. But honestly, like Jimmy and Mulpier were such excellent partners. It's like give a bunch of feedback. They won't get upset if they're told to rebuild something. They'll iterate. They'll do things quickly. Yeah, they were great. I had no issues with them as partners and people. And it was truly like a 30% effort from every person. Like even though I came in at the end, still it's like I think all things considered, with the amount of contributions that came through from the music, from the planning, from the ideas, it was pretty equal from all three of us, to be honest.
Yeah,
so we're happy.
Really
to
great
share
work on that. I know we've not been able to hear it because we've had it muted. The music when you start it up is so like
so stupid.
Yeah, it's so silly but so appropriate as well, and such like a great capitalization on like the capabilities of the game now. I've said it for pretty much every park. Everybody saw the opportunity and went for it, which I really appreciate.
That's something that, no spoiling anything, but obviously like music is a forefront for us in particular, just because it's like that's my background, that's Gustav's background, Ethan also does it, so it's like that's something that we all love doing, and I'm sure that that's something that you're going to take the reins on as well. If I know you already have in a sense, but like it's something that we've all have experience in, that now we can bring it to our favorite game, like in a way that's actually accessible, without having to require someone to drag a custom WAV file into their folder.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. Yeah, I never did. Why the fuck would I? I'm not fucking around with like 50 like WAV files that are like 60 megabytes. Not doing it.
And there's still parts that like I'll open up that used to be synced to audio, and it's like I don't even know what audio track I have in there now, and it's so wildly off. It's great.
Just so tonally inconsistent.
Yeah, I think I have like an Ethan track in it for some reason.
Do you feel a sense of regret for having generously afforded me a copy of fucking what's it called, that Ableton, and then I used it to kill you with?
Oh yeah, I did do that, huh? that should be 10 votes our way.
I will say I did that in Logic. I didn't. I actually did it like really late on that music, because obviously I was busy building.
Did that work for you though? It no issues?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Good.
And I actually,
awesome.
I'll get back to you on that, because that was just so generous, and I'm really thankful on that. But we'll discuss
no worries.
that.
I only use it on this one computer, so it's like I might as well let someone else use it who's actually going to utilize it.
Well, regardless, I'm really appreciative, and that just speaks to your generosity as a person. But I have to keep up the air of dunking on you for the public image. You know what I mean?
It's fine. We bring it upon ourselves. We, you know how it is.
I just want to seem cool to the community. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the goal.
Yes.
Trying to think if there's anything else.
I thought that Jimmy was coming. I thought that he said that he was free at this time. I don't know whether I'm misinterpreting.
Yeah, he was around in the server, but then he had to walk his dog or something. I don't know. It's funny. He's the reason we had the Wiggles. I'm like when I associate like horrible musician like acts and stuff, it's like I don't picture the Wiggles personally. But we leaned into it because the fruit salad song like worked so well with the metal music. I wanted to do Baby Shark, but I think that would have really annoyed people.
Yeah, you've got to find the line where it's like funny. I think Wiggles was perfect choice. It's just so out of left field, and these gifs and stuff just like so funny and just like unhinged.
We also considered Owl City, just for the Owl City meme guy, but I'm like that's specific.
Yeah,
but it would have been funny hearing Fireflies played really slow. I know we snuck in some Nickelback. Imagine Dragons, which is basically Nickelback. We were gonna put Rebecca Black singing the Friday song that we'd ran out of time. There's a lot of options we could have had. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We had the Rickroll. I think that was Gamma's idea or Gustav. I can't remember.
It was one of them lot. The sorts.
Yeah. Oh no, that might have been Dirt. I don't know. Everyone kind of contributed ideas, which was pretty fun.
Yeah. Takes a village.
Jimmy did all the water slides, and it sucks. It's like they are all functional. I think right before we uploaded, we didn't take the time to make sure all the queues were filled and everything was working. But everything technically is functional. There's like a diving board kind of right in front of you on the bridge. So there was a bunch of peeps lined up like diving off of the bridge. I think that kind of got messed up before we submitted. Yeah, so it's a shame. I don't think it would have lost us any votes.
No, because I think that the all of the concepts were so vivid and like well articulated. That, you know, I feel like you really got your point across, even if there are those little imperfections. Like even in ours, like there's stuff that we definitely would have changed.
Oh yeah, you're always gonna feel like that no matter what.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brightside, about Imagine Dragons, but I stand by that they're not good.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, Josh.
I can't. That Thunder song, that's the one I should have put in there. I hate that song more than anything. Oh my god. Yeah, I think that's it. We did put Postix in a room watching that Asian kid gif that Scoop keeps posting. That he's been terrorizing us all with. That's
I
forgot which angle that is, but the palette messed it up, so it kind of ruined the effect. Sadly. One.
Oh yeah, what was this? I never pulled that.
That's it takes you the Rick roll on YouTube.
Okay. Good. That's the sort of commitment that we need.
So I was gonna build like a full Arby's restaurant, but that didn't happen. It's fine.
I was going to build a full Arby's restaurant, but I couldn't get corporate approval. The sponsorship didn't come through.
I think we were also going to put a Planet Fitness for some reason. That didn't happen. There was a bunch of other dumb stuff. I don't know. I can't remember, to be honest. But it's fun. We had a good time doing it. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh well.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those concepts where it's just like you do have like a billion ideas and you have to choose 100 million to put into the park.
Mm-hmm.
I love this skull as well. Who did that?
Multier made that. Yeah. Like
no shit.
So it's like every day I'd wake up and there'd be a different level of the tower added onto it. And then all of a sudden like that with like the goat skull thing popped up and it was just like insane. And then once we added the glowing eyes from Ethan, it was perfect. He pretty much he built the whole tower except for the portal.
Yeah. This is the screenshot, and then opening up on this, and then you just scroll down and see this, like, stroke of genius. Like, you couldn't have done it any better. Like, absolute genius.
Yeah, we wanted to be super vertical, obviously, with the theme. I'm trying to think. There was something else I was going to mention, but I can't think of it at the moment. But either way, no, I'm glad you guys checked it out. It was definitely a lot of fun. I hate that we went against your team.
Well, you know, this is the thing that pisses me off as well, is that somebody has to lose. And I feel like every park from this round are like fairly comfortable winners in like a lot of situations, but like they all went up against each other. One of them had to win, one of them had to lose.
Yeah. It means the rest of the contest will just be a bloodbath, which sucks.
Yeah.
I think we're exhausted already.
Yeah, like it's going to be a tricky one because all the teams are really good. The game is more accessible than, well, not accessible, that's not the right word. It's more like optimized for you can actualize your ideas much more quickly for a whole host of reasons. So it's like the stakes get like disproportionately more and more and more high when you can't just have like a really good park anymore. It has to have like all this bonus stuff to like justify itself. It is a big challenge, and I think you guys really did well with that aspect.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to have that, but it's almost expected at this point. Yeah. And I think some of us are probably to blame for that, you know, like even for me, all the Grand Tour parks I did, it's like every single one had to have the custom audio and have all this opening stuff. And you know, it's like we've all pushed that over the past couple of years, and it's like now it's like it feels like it's expected, but I don't think it has to be. And that's the part that really kind of exhausts some people. You know, I don't think a park necessarily has to have all of that. That's just me personally. Like I like to have things that are a finished, polished, you know, product that you turn in. So for me, that means having all those extra things. But I know that's not the same for everybody. So I don't want people to get discouraged that like, oh, I have to make a 14-minute custom music track for this park to be acceptable. Like, you know, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from, but I'm just so enamored by it all, that I'm kind of not sad that people are doing it. Maybe I should be.
Well, I'm excited for the music in this contest, because obviously, like, even though I'm not building on every park, like having a hand in like sound effects and music and stuff is a lot of fun. Because now we know there's different ways to layer things, obviously, and trigger things. So it's really cool to think of like the audio space now for parks. So I'm excited to keep developing that.
I'm so excited to hear it, mate. Sincerely. And same goes for everybody. Now, I don't think any of the people from... What haven't we looked at so far, everybody? Have we looked at everything but Royal Institute? I think so, but I don't...
Oh, man, they've been waiting this whole time. Monsterbux has been here so patiently.
Monsterbux.
You should have cut me off a long time ago.
I'm here.
Would you like to talk, Monsterbux? Because I'd love to hear.
I can try. Yeah.
Well, I
Sign
insist.
language only.
Josh, thank you so much for talking to us about this.
You should have made me stop talking a long time ago. I thought I was the last one.
I'll just say I'm really sad that we went up against you and we had to absolutely crush you. But you know, maybe make a better park next time.
It's all right. We'll crush your dreams in the last round, like Leon did to me. So, last time.
Amazing. Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate it. Lots of love. Be gone. Consider yourself banished to the 9th layer of hell. Let's get Royal Institute going. So hey, Monsterbux, how are you doing?
We're good. I'm good. I do not have a dog in the background, but I do have a boyfriend playing Helldivers.
Oh, okay.
So
he's connected his PSN then. Let's not get into that though, otherwise we'll be here all day bitching and moaning.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us any insight that you may have about this beautiful creation you made.
Well, yeah. I think for this part, the main thing for us was to actually have it look like a botanical garden, more so than a park.
Yeah.
And and that was kind of what we worked based off of. And then essentially the rides or the experience would more so be based around the plants themselves, rather than relying heavy on like a big coaster or anything like that. And I believe it was Talsimir who had this idea originally. I did come in a little later, so a lot of the macro had already been done and a lot of the planning had already been done at that point. So yeah, I think the vibe, why we're like sort of going for, was to make it look pretty and make the plants interesting, you know, make it an experience for the guest to just sort of walk around, but also create, you know, like an actual institute so people could go and study the plants as well. And I think that Tolsimir actually placed like a lecture in the big house at the entrance.
There's definitely
right there. Yeah.
There it is. The lecture.
Yeah.
I think it's an actual.
It's an actual ride, so you can see inside the building. if we're a little up, and you can see it like going on through the windows. Just pull up the slicer. There you go. There you can people. Yeah. Sitting right there.
I remember I found it when I was doing my like cutaway investigations and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. I did a lot of work on the inside as well to make it look like an actual institute.
I will say, for this one, I appreciate so much the big swing taken with doing this rather than like other potential ideas. I really hate that particular parks had to lose for whatever reason, because I really enjoyed looking through this. And it sucks that one has to kind of like, you know, on that post that's on the forums, and it puts like where all the teams are standing, and then you see Jazz Cats at the bottom, and I'm just like, this is criminal, man. This is just like, I can't believe that somebody has to be at the bottom.
Yeah. I think we definitely took a risk not having rides and not having like relying heavily on verticality either, but just like sort of relying on the macro being so good and the plants themselves. But yeah, we
well, I think mission accomplished on those goals. I think this is one that people are going to be coming back to a lot for their own personal study and whatnot, because, you know, in head-to-head we can kind of get like drawn into sort of like the glitz and the glamour, and this is a park of like fundamentals. Like, it's just so fundamentally high quality, and just full of great ideas. Like this shit here, like, just beautiful. For some reason, something that really like resonated with me was this tower here, of like going around botanical gardens myself. You'll just find like a random tower, and it'll be like really overgrown in some back corner somewhere, and I was just like, oh, I can picture myself there straight away. And it's very understated. It's very sort of respectful to the viewer to be like, hey, take a look around. Do it at your own leisure.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the conceptual opposite of the Hell Park. And there's not one which is better than the other in that regard. You can take the route of like bombastic and in your face, and that is one gear, and then a different gear on the bicycle is really understated and just completely breathing room, and make the most beautiful queue line ever made for like this swan ride. And all of the personalized plants and whatnot, and all the puns around the outside, like, just genius.
We did have a lot of fun coming up those names, for sure, and trying to match them with each individual plant that we have in there.
I'm glad that that Phlois made its way in there for me, and I did I did a coaster that people consider flowy, so I'm glad that I met the hype with that one.
I personally didn't get a lot of the I didn't get a lot of the references personally, because I don't know people that well yet, but it was still like really fun to try and come up with Latin names for the weird plants we did.
Certainly don't feel bad about not knowing all of the many decades long history of New Element. That's certainly not something that it'd be crazy if you did know. But yeah, are there any details about this park that you feel people missed out on? Is there something you want to like shout out? Is like
It might be like some of the plants, like that one you just scrolled by that I actually did create myself, with the smoking plant, which I find to be so weird. And it's just like a very gimmicky thing to have. And yeah, just essentially all of the detailed little plants all around the place. And also I think especially the maze came out really nicely, the one up in the corner. I do think people noticed this, but those hedges are just like, they carry a lot of the great foliage in the park, in my opinion. So I think it came out really nicely.
Yeah, stuff like that can really sort of bring out the ideas really well. Just as something's like striking like that, these new objects really help carry that theme through.
Yeah.
It probably would have been really good without them as well, but like having them was such a boon to the whole process.
Yeah. It's just also when you don't have a lot of stuff in the park as for movement and stuff like that, it's important that the stuff that is there stands out on its own. Like having the curved hedges was actually quite essential, at least in my opinion. Yeah, the insides of that little greenhouse, or big greenhouse, is so cool to explore.
Yeah, it's just awesome.
I think
we had these little parrots in our park as well, and I just love them to bits.
Yeah. This was Tulsimir just doing an incredible job on this building here.
Tulsimir popping off.
Yeah. The weird plant with the kissing giraffes. It's also like a fun little.
Where is that?
Almost had it there in the corner.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Just weird little stuff like that.
It's just such a beautiful achievement, I think, this park. Sucks that it had to lose, you know? So it went up against Radio Park, didn't it?
Which is like the polar opposite of what we were doing.
Yeah, it's much like Hell in that regard. It's really bombastic, really in your face.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It sucks that I had to, you go up against Alex. I would have hated going up against Alex. Maybe we'll later on. Who knows? But, he's kind of one of the best to ever do it. And although you guys are as well,
Well, I have no idea. So my plan was just essentially be on standby whenever I was needed. Yeah. And that's sort of what I did. Yeah.
Well, people like you are what makes the world go round at the end of the day. So thank you for doing that. What was I going to say?
It was a learning experience for sure.
Yeah. So talk me through your experience being like a new. Is this the first head-to-head you've done?
Oh yes. Yeah. Yes. And this is also, I have played around with CSO, but not a lot.
Yeah. So talk us through your journey to finding your way in a head-to-head.
Good question. I just really wanted to build with some people, get to learn some new people. And I just felt that this would be a great learning experience. And also, since you'd be, usually when I build for competitions, I carry myself, or I work with a partner, but never more than 2 people on a park. So this would be completely different. I'd get to support instead.
Yeah.
And at the same time get to learn a bit about CSO. So that was my way of thinking going into this. And yeah, it's certainly challenging because when you build on the DKSO bench, you know it by heart by now.
Yeah.
and then I had to learn a completely new bench. And then right when I'd gotten used to it, someone changed it, and like it was all over again, you know.
Yeah, that's
because
when I'm not in like head-to-head mode, I am like a loopy landscapes player. I'm a NCSO player. And I completely relate to what you're saying there. It's like, you know, all the objects when you do NCSO or DKSO.
Yeah. But what really helped me was to like get to do small things. Like I did a lot of the plant designs, and which is why you can also see I did like sneak in some DKSO here and there. But starting small really helped. Like, I'm happy that Steve and Tolsimir took on the big task of doing all the pathing, because I don't think I'd have been able to, you know, keep motivated if I had to learn that from the beginning.
Yeah, I relate to that. I was a bit intimidated by like the half diagonal stuff. I kind of got into it later as the build process went on. But it is kind of scary because it's all different, funny. You need like 2 kinds of every object, because when it's half diagonal, it needs. Yeah. It's like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, that's the thing for me. I found out that even though you have way more objects, it feels more restrictive, because for every object you need a counter object.
Yeah.
It's like my way of thinking. But yeah.
Just outstanding.
Tolsimir is also asking me to mention a certain debate we had over the color of the greenhouse. Not the greenhouse, the institute.
Oh, really? Is it controversial?
What was... I'm not...
I have insight on that.
Yeah, that was the bright side. Go.
So there's been... there was debate for this park on whether or not to use glass, and trying to shift the meta by not using glass and instead just have an implied glass structure like this building has. And so I believe there were times when this building did have glass, actually.
It had like a greenish tint glass at some point.
Yeah, there was some back and forth about that, I think.
Wow, so what was the controversy with that then? Were people saying like it needs to be glass, otherwise?
Well, I think that glass is having glass is extremely meta. You just expect to see glass on a building with glass in it. But I think to kind of increase visibility without requiring cutaway, that was one of the reasons why they ultimately decided not to use it. And it wasn't necessarily controversial, but it was a conversation that had continued for a while.
Interesting.
A happy dispute.
Yeah.
Yes. You've got to have these, you know, pseudo arguments, don't you? You've got to have these like hotly debated things. We certainly have them in our team thing, and it's worth it. You know, hearing every perspective is important if you want to make the best thing possible.
We also did discuss a coaster early on.
Oh yeah, it was never. I don't think it was ever a decision to not have a coaster, but I don't think the perfect one ever appeared necessarily. But I think
you just forgot to put one in. Well, I can do one now. Do you want me to put one in?
I was on the park with a Giga Coaster, and then they deleted it and kicked me off.
Oh, I can't put a boomerang in here. Maybe we can put one of these in. There we go.
I think it was also a matter of having it fit in, like actually fit, because I do feel like space
I've done it. It's not that hard.
Perfect.
Solved.
Yeah.
Having it fit, yeah, I can imagine it would be. it kind of messes with the tranquility as well, and with the music as well. Really nice choice with what was it? Eric Satie. I love that composer as well. So I was really appreciative of that. It really sort of sold the atmosphere and the gentle birds chirping and whatnot, and like nature sounds. If you had like the kind of gross like bit crushed screaming in there from a roller coaster, it might have affected that vibe.
Yeah, I think so too. I actually stand by the choice of not having a inactive choice of not having a coaster. I also
honestly,
think that
I love that about it. As somebody who loves coasters, I love that it doesn't have coasters.
I also think that the path, like just putting down the path, took up so much space on its own just because you want to keep them organic and curvy, right? And it takes up so much space for a macro like this.
Worth it on some level. I know it didn't win, but I feel like that's not an admonishment on the park. I feel like it's just the way it shakes out sometimes. Because Hell had to lose against Constellations, and that feels a bit crazy to me as well. It's like every single matchup is like, wow, one of these has to lose? That sucks. I can't wait to have a round where I can speak to somebody and be like, hey, Monsterbux, your park was definitely worse this time. I don't think that's going to happen, though, hopefully, with how good everyone is now.
Yeah. Also, really happy how the borders turned out of the park.
It's really, it's fantastic, you know. It's.
We did a couple of different signs, but ended up going with that one, which was a lot of unexpected math, I'll say, to like, how long do you want the like plagues to be?
Yeah.
You need to fit it in, right? So, an unexpected amount of trial and error to get that right.
Was that all you? Were all these borders you?
Yeah, most of the designs, yeah. Obviously not the signs, but the like designs, the ornaments, we had a few different versions and tried it out, and then we ended up with that one in the end. But yeah, I did most of the work on that with a lot of help, I will say.
Well,
especially just like with basic stuff such as which objects do not glitch on top of each other, you know?
Yeah, that's a whole fucking secret wizard language as well, isn't it?
Exactly, and you start over when you don't know the bench, so.
Well, big respect. But everybody say it with me. It takes a village to build a head-to-head park. It takes everybody's knowledge to come together to make something that's this beautiful. Is there any what's your favorite part of this park?
I do love how the carousel turned out as well.
It's really cool.
But mostly because I think it was like all four of us touched that one at some point. There were a lot of people over that one to make that work. And yeah, I just think it was hard because you wanted to fit into a botanical garden without it, you know, looking too much like a theme park ride, essentially.
Yeah. It has this level of verisimilitude, which is a word that probably makes me sound like such a what's the word? So it's very late for me, and I got up really early. What's the word? Just this complete idiot to be like. But verisimilitude is like there's a truth to everything that's in here. It's just so well justified and so well motivated, and so it just feels so real.
Yeah.
Even just looking at this section here, it's just like, yep, that's how it should look.
Yeah, that exactly. I think that's what we went for. This is how it should look in like a botanical garden.
There's no. I'm struggling to see here. Something that I'm struggling to see is where the like compromise happens. So I feel like, when I'm looking at my park, it's like, oh, we compromised here. We had to. It's just so finished and so complete. Definitely, in my opinion, the most so of all the parks of this round. It's just so like finished.
Yeah, I think
I could chime in on that one and say
go for it.
That was something that they were definitely going for. But if you guys saw how much got done in just the last week, it's unfortunate. I think that the round one deadline was so sudden, because there was really a lot more that they had planned, and it was kind of sad to see that some of those things had to be cut, but for them to still put out this high quality of a product of a park was still really nice to see.
There were definitely compromises. Sure.
Well, that certainly doesn't come through in the finished product.
That's good.
I feel like I will point out some things that I don't like. Or not don't like, but like don't feel finished. Like this fountain here kind of doesn't look a bit finished. But it's so like, I can look at something and be like, that isn't absolutely perfect. And like this bit here, it could have used a bit of like extra detail on that to really sell that. But like I can point to like two things in the park and do that. And the other thing is, when the rides teleport off the edge, I fucking hate that. But I feel like I can say that because everything else is just so top drawer and so uncompromising. It feels like I have to say something bad about this park now.
I will say, like, a lot of the like details you're mentioning, certainly something we already, all of us knew, but it was just like the last day was absolute insanity.
Well, I'm very relieved to hear that you're human.
Oh, absolutely. It was good fun. I enjoyed it quite a lot. The pure craziness of building for 8 hours straight with no breaks. It was good times.
Absolutely outstanding. What a park. Gutted that it sort of comes in at the bottom of the rankings. Definitely not. We know that there is no God, because that is the case.
So just the screenshot up there, just shout out to Tulsamir for building that building. It looks so good.
It's just spot on, isn't it? Like, what would you change? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
I'd definitely put glass in here next time, just for, No, I'm kidding.
Oh, God.
What a park. Have we done all of them? Wow. Do we even need to do a Saturday? Is anyone going to show up on Saturday?
That's all of them.
Good Lord. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for giving us this insight. I wasn't anticipating... Did you get my message, Monsterbux?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I ignored it the first time because I didn't know who it was.
No, that's okay. Did I message you before?
I think you sent like a friend request and I
think I friend request because I wanted to. I think the reason why, I don't know whether your other guys in your team messaged you, but like today I realized that I hadn't messaged the Jazz Cats at all when I'd been communicating with all the other teams, seeing what they were doing. I just did it in the worst way possible, which was to individually message each of the teams. I think next round I'll just get everybody in one message chain, and then there's less opportunity for me to forget to ask somebody, because I think I'd sent you a friend request because I wanted to put you all in the message and you didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't.
Yeah, sorry for ignoring you.
No, that's okay. No, that's fine. That's literally fine. It's not your fault.
I actively ignored it. So I was like, who is this person?
That's fair enough.
But yeah, then I
think you've got
saw
to
your
be friends
message
with
and I was
somebody
like,
to do it.
oh. Yeah.
And I think just because of that, I didn't.
Fine.
That's not your fault, by the way. It's my fault. It slipped my mind because that hadn't happened yet. And then today I was like, oh god, I haven't asked them. But I'm glad
fine.
we've had some little text chat from Talsamir whilst I've been looking through it. I'm glad that you've been able to talk about it as well and give us the insight. Yeah. And also Brian as well, I believe Mr. Brightside has been chiming in, which is very much appreciated for that additional context.
I'm prepared to support.
Yes, thank you.
Any final words before we finish the stream?
Not really, just happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Essentially, yeah.
Always good to have new blood in the community and to bring your separate talents in as well from a different context of the same game. Is it a sense of whiplash to come to like the new element style from like the DKMP style, or is it like a very natural sort of flow into one from the other?
It's sort of I'd say it's more of a whiplash, I guess.
Yeah, we're
it's just
weird
different.
over here.
I think people are generally like amazing. That part is really working well. It's the whole system around contests is so different. Like the whole basics of voting, reviewing, all of that stuff is completely different. So it certainly takes some getting used to, but like in a good way.
I'm very much an outsider to that side of things. I've never taken part in one of those. I've never voted in them. I've never really looked through them. What would you say is the biggest differences between those things? This is my personal curiosity here. I'm sure other people know better than I do.
I think a lot of, at least for me, when I built a Dirklink park, it's more about creating a quick wow moment rather than spending your time macroing too much. So it's more about big buildings, big sculptures, whatever can catch the viewer's eyes, because you don't really have the time to fill out an entire park. So you sort of like pick your main focus areas and you sort of just like fill it out from there.
It's interesting.
That's at least the way I go about it. Obviously, some people go about it differently. I also was surprised that like the pathing done completely differently from what I'm used to. Because since we don't like have actual path objects to work with, we just like sort of use actual paths. So I was kind of a little bit stressed out at the end that we didn't get any path in until like the last couple of days or something, and I was like, God, what are we gonna do like with all the guest traps and all of that stuff that's gonna pop up now?
Yeah. So was that just not a challenge then? Did it just all sort of pan out? Or was that a problem that you had to solve?
We had a few problems, nothing too gnarly though. Kind of worked out.
Well,
glidingly, yeah.
You've got to take those risks when you've got limited time, don't you? That's really interesting though. Thank you for sort of like explaining that. I suppose a lot of that makes a lot of sense to me. This competition comes around once every 3 years, and people get very hype over it. Whereas like the Dirklink stuff is it like one a month? Is it like every month? Or is it
yes, and it's usually also smaller maps, like around 40 by 40 or 50 by 50.
Yeah.
So you usually have that one centerpiece coaster, and then you build it around that. Because that's what you have room for.
That's really interesting. And the good thing is that you don't have to have one that you prefer over the other because you get to do both. But hey,
Yeah.
living the dream. Would you recommend to your to people in that side of the community? Are you going to be telling them get over to New Element? They do this head-to-head competition, or are you kind of like, ooh, a lot of these builders wouldn't enjoy this?
I guess that depends. I guess I think a lot of Dirkling people on Dirkling's community, they kind of enjoy the short rush, like the little sprint building, you know, like they build for 4 weeks and then are like, I'm gone for like 3 months. Whereas this is like a continuous competition. So it really depends on if you're into that or you just prefer doing everything on your own, but for an intense amount of, like, an intense build for a short amount of time. It's very different from this in that sense.
That makes
so
a lot of
I'd
sense.
recommend it to someone who like big projects. But if you prefer building like small, quick mini maps, then probably not.
Interesting. I guess there's an aspect of like of both ways though. It's just because you're part of the contest doesn't mean you have to build on like more than one part.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure a lot of people only build on round 1 and then they're like, well, this was all I was available for. They do that little sprint thing, and then they disappear. So maybe some of those people can articulate.
Yeah, you can. They can be used here for sure. But if some people very much prefer like planning and doing all the stuff on their own, rather than building in like a team.
Very true. It is.
This is definitely different, right?
Yeah.
You sort of have to find your role in a team here, which is also completely new to me because I'm used to doing everything on my own, right?
Yeah.
And I'm taking more of a support role at this point, which makes sense, right? Because
you've
I have to learn
somewhere,
first.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it is different. It is a bit. It takes some getting used to not being part of the big macro picture as much, because you have someone else who obviously is gonna carry that.
Yeah, there's a lot of delegation goes on, isn't it? It's a very everybody gets like the tasks that they have to do, and there's a lot of very experienced people who kind of know how to delegate and get things where they need to be and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not you've got to shelf your pride as well in a lot of situations as well, and not take it personally in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
Got to put your ego aside in head-to-head.
Yeah, you're your
Unless
own
your
critic
name's
when
Cumber.
you build alone, right? So,
Exactly. And so you personally can heartily recommend the head-to-head process being a newcomer. Are you like, I would do this again?
Yeah. I think I would. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that the community's made a good impression on a new member, so that's music to my ears.
Absolutely. People are very supportive, and it's been a blast so far. So I'd recommend it.
Music to my ears.
Yeah.
Wonderful and fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Monsterbux. I really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with us.
You're welcome.
And indulge my curiosity about this park that I enjoy so much. I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Everybody's very welcome. Love you all to bits, which is why I wanted to do this stream and really highlight the community and what we're achieving at this point, and get everybody to speak on it. You know, give the insight, give the scoop on the build process, because so much goes into it that we don't get to see in the finished product. And I feel like it's really important to highlight all that stuff.
Sorry, you said scoop.
Love you, Scoop. Love you, Scoopy. You know what I miss? And also the other reason why I've done it is because I just miss all the unhinged voice chats that happened before head to head, and now we don't do that so much now. All of it's do you reckon I would be able to see it, JK? Sorry, reading the chat. See the Northern Lights. Aurora Borealis. Localized entirely in your kitchen. Might have to get out there and look at it. Anyway, sorry, that broke my little monologue. Yes, love hearing all the from all the community. Love you lots. End of stream, I suppose.